All right, so a little update. We're out on a walk trying to figure out, could we drive out today? Because we're starting to see grass around where the van is, but unfortunately we have to go up before we can go down. And if you walk up this high, there's already 6 inches of snow, and it goes up a little higher. Now, as mentioned in the last video, I tore my meniscus. So now that the snow's gotten deep, I didn't want to walk any further. It has felt very good to walk, but also could be better on only 1,000 calories a day right now. But anyway, I thought I would take this time while she does the turnaround, and she wanted to make the snow prints so that it's, as the snow melts, it'll be easier for us to drive out. I just thought I would take the time to maybe make that second video talking about music, religion, and capitalism, and how they all fit together. So if you guys will happen to watch the improv history video that I did back, I think January or sometime, I talked about how music has really been with humanity since its very beginning. When you study the anthropological history, well, I didn't, but when you read the research of people who did, music is something that seems to have emerged along with culture, language, and everything else that we take for granted as being humans, as our morphologies allowed our larynxes these more varied sounds that we can make, and also having higher calorie diets leading to larger brains. So we're talking about 500,000 years ago at this point, people sitting around a hearth to cook food so they can get more nutrition out of the food, but they need to coordinate the effort to be able to get all the wood that they need to chop. I had to make a fire because we're out of propane, and let me tell you, you have to go through a lot of wood, a lot more wood than you think you would. So back in the day, the tribe would have to gather like 200 pounds of wood a day just to make their fire for the night. So this led to people sitting around the fire, telling stories, singing songs, making rhythms, making things that are just kind of meaningful sounds to communicate. And from the beginning, it probably had the same variety of purposes that music does today, sometimes being spiritual, sometimes being recreational, as it were. And so when we talk about religion too, I want to talk about religion mostly through a socio-historical lens. So if you happen to be religious, I'm not here to take you away from your religion. If you're atheist and kind of averse to religion, I'm not really talking about religion in the organized religion sense anyway. So hopefully there's something to be found here, and I'm not trying to rile anybody up. I'm just talking about religion as something that is also, like music, pretty definitely human and evolved alongside us. And there's lots of the same evidence to suggest that people were mourning the dead and creating rituals and basically trying to ascribe some sort of greater meaning and purpose to the existence that we all find ourselves in the first place. And I see this evolutionarily as being sort of a necessary defense mechanism. As our species got smarter, it's like, well, if you start to really think, you're going to get to some places where you're like, oh, but then why? There's so much suffering. Why does this have to exist? You get smart enough to get self-reflective enough, you might start to get depressed. And so I think that religion is in many ways an antidote to that, has been. And again, I'm not saying I know that organized religion can really do a lot of mental harm to people, and it's all wrapped up in capitalism anyway, which is to say not full spirituality. But even that being said, one other thing that I want to bring into this conversation is a discussion about what the actual dominant religion in the world is today. And a lot of people would make the claim that the dominant religion today is not Christianity or Islam, but capitalism itself. That the religion, the thing that gives us purpose and meaning, the thing that at the end of the day rules all, is the dollar, is the pursuit of commodity, is the commodification of life. And I think this really impacts the former two in a couple of ways. One is that for a lot of people, myself included, music ends up being as important as any religion. It ends up being the spiritual fulfillment in and of itself, because it allows for a feeling of connecting to something that's greater than yourself. It allows for a feeling of introspection, but also looking out into the world. and it feels good. Music feels good when you're doing it well, and it's a social thing, which is a hugely important part of all of that. So that's okay, right? But now we have this other thing. We have the fact that really we have to serve capitalism. So just as back in the day, if you were like a composer during a time where you were either funded by the church or funded by a king, and then you had to sort of be okay with that authoritarianism, maybe even praise the crown, praise the system that is keeping you subjugated so as to have a job. The same is really true today. You have to make music in a way that serves capital, and you're stupid for not. And I'm not like, what's interesting is that like, I'm not even coming at this from someone who initially was a music purist. Like, I grew up in the 90s. I, have the same capitalistic ambition imbibed in me from a young age as anybody else. And though my parents are deeply religious and, they emphasize non-materialism, at the same time, we all exist in a world where commodity is the thing that is truly yearned for or craved for, or craving is mistaken for yearning. And so even from the earliest days with music, I wasn't approaching it purely as, I just want to be a great musician. I was also approaching it, how will I make money from this? And while I think to a large extent that can explain why I am, that's only part of the story. The story is that like you can't actually just make good music anymore. And this is so frustrating. Like, I mean, this is a rant in and of itself that I will save for a different video about how capitalism really keeps things from being the best versions of themselves, because the best version of itself is not the goal. Profit is the goal. But that really applies here. And for a while, when you think about the big picture of music and professional music, there was a technological innovation in recording technologies. And for a while, although there were obviously predatory practices by recording labels and stuff, there was there was a lot of unknowns about really what makes a hit. So artists had record deals before they had, actually a following. They had time to grow, and they had gigs and opportunities because places needed nightly performances. So there's this very brief window where professional music looks like a certain thing. And I think everybody would agree that regardless of the strengths that individuals can occasionally find with success via social media, the fact that everybody has to do it dilutes the art form, because you have to spend time figuring out a ton of things that aren't even the thing that you're trying to share, which is the music, the songs, whatever, the beautiful sounds that carry intrinsic meaning. That's what music comes down to. That's why it means so much. That's why music and religion overlap in significant ways. And this is why capitalism as a religion ends up infecting music in a particular way. Well, who cares? What does all this mean? Well, I think it's important that if you are trying to find a life that is filled with purpose and meaning, as I am, and I think a lot of people are, then if you want to do music, if you want to do anything really, I mean, I also like activity, physical activity. If you want to be active, if you want to be learned, if you want to be social, these are all things that can be fulfilling in and of themselves if they're done in a way that's pure, in a way that feels like there's reciprocity, in a way that feels like there's iterative advancement in your understanding of. Those are all, great things. But you can't do that if it's always twisted and malformed to something else. And so I think this is the realization that I've had, again, having to make a fire, to melt snow, to get my water, to be doing the most severe calorie restriction that I've done since a couple of phases where I was just like really trying to get thin, and I was like basically starving myself, which was good preparation for now. But it really has me keen in on how exactly to do music right, to maximize meaning, and to not worry about the capitalist machine in the moment, at least, you know, like that's the omnipresent threat in our lives. Like that's the feudal system that we live in, techno-feudal system that we live in. That's bigger than music though. What are you going to do with music itself? And so for me, what that is, you know, I like every single day to explore more patterns. I've talked in the improv video about the geometry and colors of music, really seeing something that kind of makes sense, and transmitting that, right? And using physics as an understanding to try to get first principles about music, even to try to make better recordings because of seeing what recording technologies truly is, which is a wave creating machine that's capable of reproducing sounds that our ears will interpret as a sound, which it's not actually. When I record the cello, you're not really hearing me play cello. You're hearing, you know, first the sound is converted to a digital signal in the mic, and then it's digital from there on out. So there is a great opportunity to be artistic with this medium of social media, to be aware of the situation that we're in with the techno-feudalism, the postmodern condition, the need to sell yourself in an identity, regardless of whether you have like the technological background to do that effectively. That's the whole thing. And that, at least on its own, is complete and has some meaning unto itself. So hopefully, I don't need to make this video too much longer. There's some other ideas I want to branch off into, but I'll make them their own separate videos. But for this video, I wanted to just be able to share with you this little triangle, how music can be a religion, but how capitalism is also the dominant religion, and how religion, organized or not, is just as essential a part of the human spirit as music is. And I don't think hierarchy and capitalism are as intrinsic of experiences to being human as that. So, you know, don't let it get you down. I guess that's the message. Anyway, guys, those are my thoughts, and we'll see you next time.